Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're exploring a spiritual tradition centered on discipline, symbolism, natural rhythm, and inner clarity. A tradition that invites people to move with purpose and live with deeper meaning. Let's begin. People often reduce this path to imagery, candles, moon phases, herbs, altars, symbols that look beautiful from the outside, but are rarely understood for what they truly represent. Because beneath those outer forms is something much deeper. At its core, this tradition is about how a person moves through life. It's about living with purpose, recognizing that what you do, what you say, and what you direct your focus towards all carry weight. It teaches that spiritual practice is not just something performed on special occasions. It is something woven into the way a person thinks, chooses, honors, and becomes. One of the deepest parts of this path is ceremony. Ceremony gives shape to devotion. It creates a pause in the middle of ordinary life and says, this moment matters. It allows a person to step out of distraction and enter a space of clarity. A candle lit with purpose becomes more than a simple act. A prayer spoken with sincerity becomes more than words. The moment itself becomes intentional. And that matters because so much of modern life pulls people away from depth. Everything moves quickly. Everything asks for attention, and everything encourages reaction instead of reflection. Ceremony interrupts that. It slows the mind. It focuses the spirit. It reminds us that there is meaning in what we do when we do it with care. Then there is intention. Intention is what gives direction to practice. It is the difference between going through the motions and actually standing inside what you mean. This tradition asks deeper questions. What are you calling into your life? What are you releasing? What are you strengthening through your thoughts, words, and your choices? That kind of honesty is not always easy, but is powerful because many people live divided within themselves. They want one thing, say another, and act from a place they have not fully examined. But this kind of spiritual work asks for coherence. It asks the person to become clear in desire, motive, and in what they are cultivating through the energy they bring to their own life. Another essential part of this path is rhythm. Nature does not move in a straight line. It moves in cycles. There is growth, rest, release, and renewal. There are seasons of expansion and seasons of withdrawal. The moon changes, the tides shift, the body asks for movement and stillness. Life itself is always moving through phases. This tradition remembers that. It teaches that not every pause is failure. Not every ending is loss. Not every dark season is something to fear. Some moments are meant for action. Others are meant for listening. And others are meant for letting go. There is wisdom in that. Because when a person learns to live in tune with rhythm instead of fighting it, they stop treating every transition like a crisis. They begin to understand that change is not always punishment. Sometimes it's preparation. Sometimes it's clearing. And sometimes it is the beginning of a new form of growth. This path also speaks strongly to responsibility. Spiritual practice without honesty becomes performance. Symbolism without truth becomes decoration. Words can sound beautiful and still be empty if they are not grounded in integrity. So real practice asks harder questions. Is this coming from wisdom or ego? Healing or control? Clarity or fear? That is where the depth really is. Because the point is not to look powerful. The point is to become disciplined enough to know what you are feeding with your focus, will, and actions. That is what turns spiritual practice into something real. For many people, this path is also a return to intuition, symbolism, the wisdom of the body, to reverence for the earth, and a return to the parts of the self that modern life often tells people to silence. That is part of why it can feel so profound, not because it gives someone something artificial, but because it helps them remember something ancient, something deeply human, a way of moving through life that makes room for mystery, reflection, devotion, and meaning. And that is also why it has so often been misunderstood. Anything that strengthens inner authority can make people uncomfortable. A person who trusts their discernment, honors timing, and moves with purpose becomes harder to manipulate. A person who listens inwardly begins to depend less on outside approval. And that kind of self-possession can be unsettling to systems built on noise, speed, and disconnection. So what is the power here? It's not domination, fantasy, or spectacle. It is the power to live with meaning, to act with purpose, to honor timing, to move with intention, to treat daily life as something worthy of reverence. And maybe most of all, it is the power of presence. Because real power is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and sometimes it is simply the moment a person becomes fully clear about what they carry within and what they are choosing to shape. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.